everyone Shabbat Shalom. We're going to begin our service on page 6 of our Sidurims. Page 6 of our Sidurims with Hine Matov. I'm sorry, page 6 with Shalom Aleichem. Would you like to do Hine Matov? All right.
Oh, you want to do Shalom? What do you want?
We could do. Would you like to invite up the students that are in the choir for Hine Matov? Okay. All the kids who are in choir, I'd like to invite up here. We're actually going to open up with Hine Matov, and we'll invite all the kids who are in the children's choir to come on and join us for Hine Matov. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov u'manayim. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov u'manayim. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov u'manayim. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov. Shabbat gam yachad, Hine matov. Shabbat gam yachad. Everyone. Okay. Choir may be seated. I will invite you back up very shortly. It's okay. We'll continue on page 6 of our Sidurims with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei El Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamatim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bo'echem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei El Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamatim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barhuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei El Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamatim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seichem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei El Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamatim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'd like to invite up a board member, may it be Marilyn, for our lighting of the Shabbos candles on page 7 of our Sidurims. Page 7, we have a responsive reading for lighting the Shabbos candles. As you see, they've already been lit, but we're going to say the blessing at this time.
Come, let us welcome Shabbat.
May its radiance illuminate our hearts.
Light is the symbol of the divine.
The eternal is my light and my salvation.
Light is the symbol of the divine within us.
The human spirit is the light of the eternal.
Light is the symbol of the divine law.
For the mitzvah is a lamp and the Torah a light.
Light is the symbol of Israel's mission.
I, the eternal, have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, O eternal our God, who makes our lives holy through divine mitzvot and has commanded us to kindle the Shabbat lamp. May the eternal bless us with Shabbat joy.
Amen.
May the eternal bless us with Shabbat peace.
Amen.
May the eternal bless us with Shabbat holiness.
Amen. page 9 of our Siddurim. We're going to join together for Lecha Dodi. Ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikavila Lecha Dodi ligrat kala pene Shabbat nikavila Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad Hishmiyanu el chamuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad Lishem motiferet belitila Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Ligrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha Ki mekor haberecha Merosh mikedem nesuka Sof ma'asa b'machshatila Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Ki ori Kiva ora gumi ori shir daveri Kavod Adonai alai nigla Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela. And we all rise as we face the entrance or exit of our building as we welcome in the Shabbos bride. Boi v'shalom atzeret bala Gam b'simcha u'v'tzola Toch emunei am segula Boi kala Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela Lecha Dodi ligrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikavela. Remain standing now for the Hatzi Kaddish on page 11 of our Siddurim. Once again, we're now turning to page 11 of our Siddurim for Hatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkedash shemei rabba B'yalmat divrah hirutei v'yamlich ma'chutei B'cha hayekon u'b'yoymekon u'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman karib B'yemeru Amen Yehei shmei rabba mivorach Le'al yamalal me'amaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitraman v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei kudashah b'rechu Le'la min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Damiran b'alma B'yemeru Amen. I'd like to now invite up our students in the choir as well as any of our students who would like to join us for the Baruch Hu on page 12 of our Siddurim. One that we've been practicing at Bristol. Okay. I'll join. Page 12 for Siddurim. We face the ark. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Thank you, Mr. Congregation. Because we'll join together on page 13 with the italicized text. We'll join together for the reading that begins with Eternal God. Eternal God, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, not let your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you, and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai, ha-ma'ariv arabim. Blessed are you, O Eternal, who brings on the evening. Page 14, we join together at the bottom of the page, the translation for Avat Olam. With eternal love you've loved your people, the house of Israel. Torah and commandments, statutes and judgments you taught us. Therefore, O Eternal our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will discuss your statutes and rejoice in the words of your Torah and your commandments forever. For they are our lives and they lengthen our days, and we will meditate upon them day and night. May you never remove your love from us forever and ever. Blessed are you, O Eternal, who loves God's people, Israel. Page 15, we're now going to join together for the Shema. If there's any other kids who'd like to join us up here for the Shema this time, please come and join us. Going once, going twice. Okay, not going to put anyone on the spot, but it would be nice. All right, page 15, Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. You may be seated. If we'll join together, if you're standing up here, you might as well, you don't have to go sit down, because we're going to do the V'ahavta together on page 16. Or Sidurims, page 16. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha chayom al levavecha v'shinatan levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'letecha b'derech u'shachbecha u'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'ktavtam al mizuzot beitecha u'b'yisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. We're now going to turn to page 17 of our Sidurims for a responsive reading in English. Eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else. Let them beat their swords into plowshares. Let nation not lift up sword against nation. Let them study war no more. You shall not hate another in your heart. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Let the stranger be in your midst, to you as the native, for you were once strangers in the land of Egypt. Page 18, we'll join together from Michamocha. Mi chaimocha ba'alim Adonai. Mi chaimocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora teilot osei felen. Malchutecha ra'u banecha bokeyam lifnei Moshe. Ze eli anu v'amru. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. ונאמר כי פרע אדוני את יעקב וגדול מיחזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 19, we'll join together for a responsive reading once again in English. Cause us, O eternal our God, to lie down in peace and to awaken us each morning to renewed life with strength. Spread over us the holy shelter of your peace. Curb also within us the inclination to do evil, and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Guard our going out and our coming into life with peace from this time forth forever. We're going to now join together on page 20 for Vishramru, and once again I'd like to invite all members of our choir as well as all of our students who'd like to be part of Vishramru on page 20 of our Siddurim. This is about all of our students here. Where'd Richard go? Oh, there he is. Vishamru Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Le'doretan berit olam Vishamru B'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Le'doretan berit olam B'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Oti le'olam Oti le'olam Vishamru B'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat Le'doretan berit olam Ki sheit yamim Asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat le'doretan berit olam uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash Shavat vayinafash, shahavat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat le'doretan berit olam. We now rise for the Amidah prayer, the standing prayer of Tefillah, which is on page 21 of our Siddurim. Tefillah, or the Amidah, once again may be found on page 21 of our Siddurim. Please will place the arm for the Amidah prayer. Adonai sepatati taku fi yagita hilatecha. Oh God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanorah El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, Vizocher Chastei Avot Beimachot, Umepigila Lifnei Benechem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umashiach Umagen, Baruch Atzai Adonai, Magen Abraham Be'ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atara Lehoshia, Marid Hatzal, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Saimech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asorim, Oy Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Micha Mocha Baal Geburot Umidon Melach Melech Memid Oy Mekayem Umatzmiach Yeshua Bene'eman Etaleh HaHayot HaKol Baruch Atah Adonai Mechaye HaKol Atah Kadosh Mishim HaKadosh Ukoshim B'chol Yom Hallelujah Selah Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. We will now daven silently until we join together on page 29 for Oseh Shalom. now going to join together on page 29 of our Sidurims for Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom Bimromav Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael V'imru Amen Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom Yaseh Shalom Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Yimaru Amen. You all might be seated. I'm going to ask actually those of you who will be presenting to remain standing. Maybe everyone just assemble onto the front row right below here. So we have a very special program today arranged in recognition of Yom HaShoah that our children are going to be presenting. I'd like to invite up all of the children who will be presenting. Are there any teachers who'd like to come up also? Be part of the experience? No? Okay. All right. All of our kids are up there. Gonna make sure that our online guests can also see. What? Yeah, we'll pass the mic. We've got the mic over here. Okay. Before I pass out the mic, I'm gonna frame what we'll be doing is we have members of the Monroe Township Jewish community as well as members of Eitz Chaim, our direct relatives of members who have perished or had suffered as inmates or escapees of the Great Shoah of the Holocaust. And today we're encapsulating some of those stories and we're raising those voices out loud in our community and having our children share those stories of sometimes perishment, sometimes survival with our greater community here, and not just Eitz Chaim, but also Monroe Township. We have some people who are all coming here for the first time today. So we're going to start on our left side and be going right. I'll be sharing the mic. And you'll pass the mic along as you share these stories from our community at large.
So this is Max Poland's story. Max Poland's family came from eastern Poland and western Ukraine around Bialystok. In 1941, the Nazis captured Max and they sent him into a larger concentration camp in western Poland. Max survived the concentration camp for about 4 years until liberation. Max tried to escape from the concentration camp and establish communication with the Allies, the Russian army. He liberated Max. Upon liberation from the camp, Max was unhealthy. At 6 feet tall, he weighed only about 100 pounds. He had to spend much time in hospitals to recover from malnourishment. After liberation, he assisted the Allies until the end of the war. Subsequent to the war, Max resided in Princeton, New Jersey. He was an entrepreneur and venture capitalist.
Born in Monroe, Ukraine, Reb Nachman was a rabbi and follower of Breslov Hasidism in Monroe. His family was part of the Hebron Kadashah that managed the cemetery for the Jewish community. He lived next to the Jewish cemetery. In November 1941, July 1942, and early 1943, the Nazis eliminated the community. Reb Nachman Falstein escaped with his brother Reb Mordechai, first moving to the cities in Russia, and then to the United States. Shifra Nahid and Mordechai Falstein. Born in Numerov, Ukraine, their families were connected to Breslov Hasidism. The family was part of Shabbat Kadisha that managed the cemetery for the Jewish community. In November 1941, July 1942, and early 1943, the Nazis eliminated the community. Shifra Nachim and Mordecai did not survive the war. They were survived by Reb Nachman and Reb Mordecai Falstein. William Offenberg was the father of Temple member Lee Rothman. He was born in Hordenka, Poland in 1914. As a young boy, he was emotionally and physically harassed and picked on because he was a Jew. He was thrown out of school because he once wrote an essay about wanting to immigrate to Palestine someday, which is what Israel was called before it became independent. His father's general store was closed down by the local government because the family was Jewish. No one in his family was able to find any work, and they often went hungry. He was the last Jew present to receive a visa to leave his town. He arrived in the United States in January 1940. He was only in the United States for a few months before he enlisted in the U.S. Army and fought in 5 major battles in the South Pacific. William was the only member of his immediate family, father, mother, brother, sister, and nephew, that survived the Holocaust. They were all murdered. William Offenberg went on to lead a productive life in America. He was the father of 2 daughters and grandfather of 4 children. He also was elected the head of the Jewish War Veterans in the Bronx.
The person I'm covering is Lois Framholz. Lois Framholz is a Holocaust survivor who lives in Monroe Township, New Jersey. She was born in a little village in the Carpathian Mountains, which is now part of Hungary. In 1939, when she was only 16 years old, she and her family were placed into the Munkacs ghetto. A few weeks later, she was put into a cattle car with her mother, father, younger sister, and 2 younger brothers. They were taken to Auschwitz, where everyone except her was immediately killed. She was sent to a work camp where she experienced hard physical labor. In 1945, she was forced to go into death and water. She was liberated by the British Army. After liberation, she was eventually reconnected to 2 uncles who lived in the United States and was able to immigrate to America in 1948. Lois met her husband in night school where she was learning to speak English. Her husband had escaped from a ghetto and then became a fighter in the force for most of World War II. Today, Lois is a mother, grandmother, and a great-grandmother.
Cantor David Wincey. David Wincey was a vocalist, composer, educator, and beloved community leader. Later in life, he would use his powerful baritone to share with the world his remarkable tale of surviving the Holocaust through story and song, tracing his harrowing journey from young Polish star to Auschwitz prisoner to American liberator. With the 101st Airborne, Cantor Wincey's remarkable singing voice helped save him in the Nazis' concentration camp. David was born in the town of Visokzhsk, Poland on August 31st, 1926. He was a star student of the Arbit Hebrew school system, and he had mastered multiple languages including German, French, Yiddish, and Hebrew. By the age of 10, he received vocal training as a pupil of director, composer, maestro A.Z. David Watch. David also learned from renowned Santors Garsha Zero and Moshe Coxey, mentors who taught him how to blend Jewish traditions with optic style. As young David's singing career began to flourish, he and his family, father Elu, mother Malka, older brother Moshe, and younger brother Do, moved to the capital city of Warsaw. David was soon performing in synagogues and theaters and on Polish radio. But on September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and soon after, the local Jewish population was forced into a small section of the city that would become the Warsaw Ghetto. One day, David returned home to find his father, mother, and younger brother murdered by the Nazis. David's older brother had escaped the ghetto, but he was never seen again. Eventually, David was captured and taken by the cattle car to the Ashkenazi-Bracken concentration camp. David was a prisoner of Ashkenazi for close to 3 years. He stayed alive by singing to entertain the Nazi guards, the cell block leaders, while in the Nazis' death camp. He composed 2 songs that became popular with the inmates. One song is in Polish, Auschwitz, and the other is in Yiddish, Das Weiße Haus. The Little White House in the Woods is now on display at the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. After being transferred to Dashi and surviving a death march in December 1944, David managed to escape into the nearby woods. He was soon found and rescued by the American 101st Airborne Division, joining with the 506th Prussian Infantry. He was adopted as their little Davy and was able to put his language skills to work as an interpreter. He engaged actively in combat during the closing days of the war with Germany in 1945, transforming from a survivor to a liberator.
Paul Beller is a resident of Monroe Township. Last week he spoke about his experiences during the Holocaust at Monroe Township Library. Next week he will speak at our Hebrew school. Paul lived a normal life in Vienna, Austria until 1938. Right after that, Australian Jews had all of their rights taken away from them. Life became extremely difficult, and Paul's family knew they had to get out in order to save their lives. Gilbert and Eleanor Krause of Philadelphia organized a kinder transport to help save Jewish children who lived in Vienna. Paul was one of the 50 children to be selected to be saved. He arrived in New York on June 3, 1939, and was placed with a foster family. A year later, his mother and grandparents arrived in the United States. His father had gone into hiding and was later detained by the British as he tried to get into Palestine. His father finally joined the family in 1946. Paul's journey to safety is documented in the film 50 Children, the rescue mission of Mr. and Mrs. Krause.
Rachel de Castro was born in 1915 in Greece, a small village in the western part of the country. On the morning of March 25th, 1944, Nazi soldiers arrived and told the 1,960 Jewish residents that resided in Znaina to pack one bag. At the time, Rachel lived with her mother, her sister, and her sister's 2 children. The Jewish residents were transported by trucks and then cattle cars to Auschwitz-Birkenau. When they arrived at the camp 2 weeks later, they were divided into 2 lines, one for those who could work and one for the gas chambers. Rachel was directed to the other line. Rachel became hyper-hysterical and refused to be separated from her family. Rachel, who apparently understood their situation, convinced Rachel to go to the work line, therefore saving her life. Rachel was at the camp for 10 months. She was liberated on January 27, 1945 by Russian soldiers.
Some of the kids have also put together some artwork emblematic of the survivors and their stories, and I'd like if those children may hold up those artwork right now. And again, share with us those names.
Mine is Cantor David Wisney. This is him being saved by his vocal abilities.
There.
This is William. And this person is he's in the army, and this person is in the other army.
My kids, may be seated. I think it's very meaningful that we have our children sharing these stories with us today as our Holocaust survivor population has begun to dwindle further and further. Our connection becomes more and more tenuous potentially, but sharing these stories with our children in particular and having our children as emblematic representatives of the Jewish community is very important. They stand to be the last testament, the last connection we have to this generation before they're no longer with us any longer. I'll share one more thought. In the fear and hopelessness and sadness that is created in the wake of the Holocaust and subsequent on days of like Yom HaShoah, we're oftentimes left with want and wonder. How could this ever happen to our people? How could evil have prevailed? And then there are those moments that restore our faith. And one of those moments happened just yesterday. I was walking around outside, I was on my phone, and thought, and the guy walks up to me. He's here with us today. His name is John Mazziano. And he came to me and said, I'd like to share with you a story. It's a story of my my mother's survival. Just so happened that he came to me on the day subsequent to Yom HaShoah. Serendipity is what restores my faith in moments like that. He tells me this story, and I invited him to come today and just to share with us a short paragraph about his mother's survival. Can you come up? And he brought with him, as well today, a passport that she received upon leaving Nazi Germany. Her exit visa card. You have the sheet?
Real quick.
Okay.
Hi. I'm not a little kid like them, but I feel like one right now. From the time I was little, I knew we were different because everybody else had grandparents. My mother's father was taken away right in front of her. They lost their house, they were taken away, and she and her brother survived somehow for a year, and she had relatives in New Jersey that they wrote to and begged to please help them. And they had no money, so my mother stood on lines when she saw a line, and one of them was from Hyas, and Hyas paid for their trip. And this is actually the ticket for the boat that she came on, which was the Saturnia. And inside it says how much it cost. It cost them $16 to come to America, but they didn't have it, but Hyas paid for them. And she came to live with relatives in Jersey City, and she did a show with some, I'm giving that to him to watch. And about the year before she left, her best friend said, let's take a picture together and I'm going to give it to you, not knowing that her friend was leaving for America because she was getting out. And 40 years later, they met again. And I had friends who went on a Viking tour, and it stopped. My mother lived right by the Danube River, so they got off there. And the Nazis categorized everything, and they have books that you can go through. And it has my grandfather's name and his address where they took him from when they took him away. And this is the picture of the house in Vienna that my mother grew up in. That way. And they got that when they were there. They took a picture of it. And this is when the Nazis decided that she could come to America, her visa from the Nazis, the original one, and this is from America saying that she could come. And I think it was just fate that we met like that. And her saddest thing in her life, she had a little cousin named Manfred who said to her the day before she left, "Please put me in your suitcase and take me." And it bothered her the rest of her life that she couldn't save me. And that's my story.
Thank you, John, for sharing that story. It's moments like that restores my faith. Without the opportunity for hearing from John today, that story may not have been shared with us. It's a story of survival that we don't hear, and our children must hear of survival. And I appreciate you coming here and sharing us that story today. And thank you for all of our kids for being part of this transmission of history of generation to generation, door to door, and keeping the memories of everyone who perished alive in your hearts as well. Can you hear us, and may it be God's will. Amen.
Amen.
Thoughts now will turn to members of our community who are in pain and need of healing of mind, body, and or of spirit with the Misha Berach prayer. Misha Berach prayer may be found at the very back of our Sidurins. It is our custom to rise as the ark is being opened. However, I'm going to be reciting names before we rise from our Misha Berach list. And after the names have been read aloud, I'd like to ask anyone in our community who would like to add any names to that list to please add those names at this time. On our Misha Berach list for today, we have the following names: Evan Mitchell Wadika, Sia Von Markeli, Ali Sosa, Suzanne Wadika, Rachel Badina, Yosef Ben Elka, Vicky Hayes, Bill Mattress, Miriam Mendel Ben Shira, Nachman Ben Malka, Shlomo Leib Ben Malka, Alan Lewis, Esther Baruch, Yehuda Ben Joseph, Russ Pineri, Jeffrey Stein, Jeffrey Koffler, Aaron Evers, Claudia Shafta, Courtney Zabek, Linda Bloom, Elaine Blitz, Linda Wilson, Rhoda Jacobs, Bucky Bunnell, Linda Goteb, Sylvia Stern, Myra Levis, Evie Schneider, Dr. Sharon Anita Wander, Sonia Richmond, Susan Skovernick, Marge Estrin, Israel Reuben, Ben Devorah Alka, Stuart Kaufman, Ivan Radowitz, Ellen Thompson, Sharon Berman, Mindel Batya Basura Rifa, Yvette Zamos, Asher Ephraim, Michael Berkowitz, Sonia Richmond, Josie Emma Libros, Eileen Whale, Tom Bunnell, Terry Kane, Hannah Basura Rivka, Sharon Beckus, Alan Steinberg, Barbara Steinberg, and Alicia Steinberg. Are there any additional names anyone would like to have added to the list for the Misha Berach for today?
Art Schnair.
Art Schnair.
Herb Schwab.
Herb Schwab.
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 Marla Rosowski.
Marla Rosowski.
Roseanne Emmett Ben Rivka. Ben.
Reuven Ben Emmet.
Reuven Emmett Ben.
Reuven Emmet Ben Rivka. Thank you.
Betty Drovin.
Betty Drovin. Are there any additional names anyone would like to have added to the Misha Berach list? Okay, it is our custom to rise for the Misha Berach prayer found at the very back of our Sidurims.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yisheberach imotenu before Abraham. Let the
standing for the Elenu prayer found on page 30 of our Siddureens. The Elenu is on page 30 of our Siddureens. If any of our kids would like to come up here and join for the Elenu prayer, you may join at this time, either from one of our classes or from our choir. On page 30. Aleinu l'shavei adlaidon hakol lateit gedula liyotzeh reshit shelo asanu kiyeh aratzot velo samanu kimishpachot adama shelo sam kalkeinu kahem v'gor aleinu kikal kamonam v'anachnu korim Oy mishtakabim, oy modim, lifnei melech malkei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, she'unetei shamayim v'yoser haaretz, umoshev yekaro b'shamayim mima'al, ushchinatu zo, b'govei meroimim, hu Eloheinu ein od. Emimokenu efezulato, kakatu betorato, v'yadata hayom, ve'oshivota eladevecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, bashamayim mima'al, v'yal haaretz mitzachad ein od. We join together on page 31. We therefore hope in you, O eternal our God, soon to behold the splendor of your might. Then will false gods vanish from the earth, and the idols will be utterly cut off, to heal the world through the sovereignty of the Almighty. Then will all acclaim you as their God, and forsaking evil turn to you alone. Let all who dwell on earth acknowledge that unto you every knee must bend, and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, O eternal our God, let them humble themselves. To your glorious name, let them give honor. Let all accept the yoke of your dominion, that you may rule over them soon and forever. For the dominion is yours, and you will rule in glory. As it is written, the eternal will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom Mahu Yihiyeh Adonai Echad Ushemo Echad. You may be seated. Our thoughts now turn to members of our community who are no longer with us. I'll be reciting names from our Yortzeit list as well as members of our community who have recently passed. In addition to the observance of loss of these members of our community, we also recognize the 6 million Jews that perished in the Holocaust, as we will be observing and reciting Mourner's Kaddish this evening. Our Yortzeit list for this evening includes the following names: Ruth Schneider, Eugene Kurland, Marley Tuman, Henry Appelman, Francis Offenberg, Manuel Steinhoff, Celia Sheff, Ruben Stumacher, Hannah Jacobs, Elliot Drogan, Sam Rockman, Ellie Kaufman, Louis Balstein, Louis Peck, Francis Stovak, Sidney Richmond, Daniel Peller. Recently passed from our community are the following names: Jacob George Coble, Peter Lozama, Stan Perlman, David Schneider, Raphael Marcus, Florence Schneider, Sylvia Tannenbaum, Florence Gottmacher, Philip Moret, Bruce Fleischer, Eleanor Harris. Are there any additional names anyone is observing a Yortzeit for here today or in the period of Shoshim of?
Barbara Ann Pasqualoni.
Barbara Ann
Pasqualoni.
Pasqualoni. Okay.
Lee Benner.
Lee Benner.
Stephen Rozowski.
Stephen Rozowski. Oh, yes. Eli Kaufman. Are there any additional names anyone would like to have added to the list? Okay. We'll now rise for the mourner's Kaddish on page 33 of our Sidurims. Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabba, be'alma divra hirutei v'yamlik malchutei, be'chayechon u'yoymechon u'chayei decho beis Yisrael, v'agala v'zman karig v'imru amen. Yahei shmei rabba mivarach l'olam olamei almaya, Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yisba'ar v'yismaran v'yisnaseh, v'yishadar v'yishaleh v'yishalal, shemei l'kudashah b'reichu. La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Aseh shalom b'mramav, v'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all who bereaved. And let us say, amen. You may be seated. Now have an opportunity for some brief announcements. Who will be delivering our announcements? Will it be Laura today? Okay, Laura today.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And thank you for the kids who, you guys did a really nice job reading. I know a lot of them were really worried during Hebrew school and pronouncing some of the villages correctly and things like that, but you guys did a nice job sharing your story. And thank you very much for sharing your story about your mom. We really appreciate it, thank you. So some announcements that we have. So tomorrow, we are now doing Torah study at 10 o'clock, and then worship is going to start at 10:30 sharp. So that starts tomorrow. We have Matmadim is back. It's an adult learning group. It's Mondays at 12 p.m. Feel free to bring your lunch with you. Put it in your calendar. We have Operation Wedding, a documentary. It's going to be on Sunday, April 30th, 12 to 2 at the library, at Monroe Township Library. There'll be light refreshments also. Tickets are free, but it's limited to 100 people. We also have a Mother's Day coffee sale. So support Etzion by sending a Mother's Day coffee greeting to someone special. There's information online in the website, so place your order by Wednesday, May 10th. And then let's see, some important dates coming up. We have a kiddish lunch next week on April 29th. I already mentioned the Operation Wedding. We have a board meeting May 3rd. We have a Sator committee meeting on May 4th. And soon we have Sabrina Singer's bat mitzvah, and that's going to be on June 3rd. And let's see, how come Sierra's not on here? So, when's Sierra's bat mitzvah? Sierra doesn't like to be the center of attention. So of course I have to make her the center of attention. But her bat mitzvah's coming up too. She's gonna kill me. And then we have how Saba kept singing, which is about, oh gosh, is it about Cantor Wisney?
It's about Cantor David Wisney, so it's...
So yeah, the story that Logan read.
Yeah, with Logan,
yeah. So that's going to be on June 11th here. And everything, a lot more information is on our website with more details. Thank you, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Justin.
So I'd like to invite all of our kids now. At this time, we're going to be singing Adon Olam as the closing of our service. Come on up. Come on up. All the kids. You don't have to be in any classes. If you've gone through Hebrew school, if that's you, come on up. Eric, come on. Want to come on up? You coming? coming up? Wanna come up? No? Okay, alright, okay. Alright, we've got a lot here though. Alright, page 34 of our Siddurees is Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yisir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chesal Kol Azai Melech Shemoy Nikra V'yachat Reiki Lo Takol Levado Yimloch Naira Vehu Haya Vehu Hoveh Vehu Iya Betifara Vehu Echad V'ein Sheni Lehamshilo Lehachbira Beli Reshi Beli Tachlit Velo Ha'oz Ve'hamizra Vehu Eli Ve'chaya Goali Ve'tzor Kevli V'yesara Ve'hu Nisi Omanos Li Menat Kosi Beyom Ekra V'ya'ado Akid Ruchi V'yetz Ishan V'ya'ira V'yim Ruchi Geviyati Adonai Li V'lo Ira. Good Shabbos everyone, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos. Now, the person who normally does our Kiddush as well as does our Hamotzi, Stephen, is not here today. So I'd like to ask if there's anyone who would like to volunteer for the Kiddush as well as for the Hamotzi for today. Lead us. I see a bunch of hands pointing, but I can't see the who. Robert, who's... You want to do it?
Yeah. I tried getting last time.
Okay, alright.
I'm a grown man.
Alright, Robert. We'll do it together. Alright. Good Shabbos, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.